guillotine, being strong enough to trounce them. This discrepancy makes him uneasy. Three hunters together were able to take away Killshot's arms and legs when she was many times stronger and more experienced in battles, and Araragi himself, whose experience in competitions is equal to fights between his younger sisters. Objectively, the defeat of Araragi was inevitable. This thought haunts the newly minted vampire. But oddly enough, being mediocre with no experience in battles, he could handle them. Mime explains that Araragi is the only relative by yourself Killshot Acerola Orion Heart Under Blade. This demonstrates that he is powerful, even with such different an experience. From the hunter's point of view, Araragi was irresistibly strong, and in the opposite case, the enemies were undervalued weaklings from the youth's side. At this point, Mime decides to reveal one secret to the young man. It turns out that Killshot wasn't at its peak at the point. We see Mime take the reason for the vampire's powerlessness out of his breast pocket, her heart, which Mime himself stole from her to create balance. To achieve balance, Araragi had also to fight Mime, the fourth opponent, to get a heart, but Mime decided to give up the heart and not fight. All this time, the heart owner did not even know about its absence. He also asked Araragi if he had been feeling hungry lately. Araragi, on the other hand, has lost his appetite and hasn't eaten anything for 2 weeks, which means he will soon be hungry. Before leaving, Mime asks to convey an apology to Killshot and also forgives Araragi's debt for 5 million, saying that this is not a bribe and it will be easier for him. In the next scene, we see the vampire rejoicing in the return of her original form and true strength. The guy sends her an apology meme, which she accepts and is not angry at the one for stealing her heart. Araragi expects Killshot to turn him back into a human as soon as possible. But before that, Killshot and Araragi spend an evening on the roof, where she reminisces about her previous subordinate, a samurai who got tired of living for so long and eventually decided to commit suicide when Killshot couldn't restore his humanity. There she also shows him the sword of the samurai, which she pulls out of her body and cuts Araragi so fast that he doesn't even feel like he was cut in half. She explained that this sword is so sharp that even the fabric is instantly restored after being cut. This evening, there was a lot of joy from both Killshot and Araragi. They were glad that it was all over. The mistress had regained her power, and the subordinate was finally going to be a human. Unfortunately, the happiness didn't last long. To celebrate his mistress' recovery and his last day as a vampire, Araragi leaves to buy food, but when he returns, he sees Killshot eating the glued corpse of a guillotine cutter. Araragi is horrified to realize that the mistress will now hunt humans again, and that he will want to hunt them too. At the same time, Killshot continues to eat the hunter's corpse, as if it were a regular thing. This realization causes Araragi to be depressed enough to want to die, and feels the shock of not noticing or even thinking that this would ever happen. He feels guilty that he saved a vampire, and is also afraid of himself because he can harm innocent people in the future. Killshot at this time calms him down by saying that she's starving and will die if she doesn't eat. After all, people also eat animals. Araragi, enraged by this situation, goes to the school warehouse room, where he spends some time smashing inventory trying to calm down. But then he wanted to make a phone call to my only friend, but I remembered that I deliberately deleted her contacts to offend her. After rummaging through his phone for a while longer, he finds her number. It turns out that she secretly entered her number into the guy's phones again. This made him very happy. After the call, Tsubasa appears and persuades Araragi to stay alive. She also points out that Araragi is strong enough to stop the Killshot. Araragi suffers from the thought of looking at Tsubasa only as food soon. In addition to this, Tsubasa herself is ready to become food. And give her life for her friend, as she believes that the person from whom she is not prepared to die is not her friend. Suddenly, Araragi asks Tsubasa to touch her breasts. Since Araragi is afraid that he will be distracted by Killshot's passionate breasts when she is in her adult form, which is why she will win, as they will surely swing during the battle. Therefore, to find and counterweight, it needs immunity to the female breast. Tsubasa agrees, but asks Araragi to wait a bit. While she takes off her bra, Araragi is very nervous. As soon as Tsubasa came up, she made her demands. The breast needed to be caressed gently and for at least 60 seconds. Araragi asks Tsubasa to turn away, as he thinks it would be rude to look her in the eye while doing this. Then Araragi demands to repeat his phrase after him. Unfortunately, all the foreplay was just in his head. Araragi can't just massage her friend's breasts. Then turned away from him, Tsubasa repeatedly repeats the single word weakling. Araragi says that he was confused by her unwavering kindness, but he saw the light from her actions. After the young man asks to massage Tsubasa's back with his own hands, she agrees. Araragi offers to continue next semester, and Tsubasa also decides. Araragi and Kishot collide at the Olympic Stadium. She asks the young man to take her side and live side by side with her. Araragi continues to blame himself for turning a blind eye to the behavior and needs of vampires. He didn't want to see the truth, but in any case, it would have been revealed sooner or later. The young man recalls seeing Kishot devour Guillotine's bloody corpse and turned a blind eye to it, as he wanted to die just for Kishot. So he didn't consider it evil to eat people, but did not take into account the fact that as a result of this, they will still die. He saw all this in all its colors, and considered it wrong. Kishot hoped there was an Araragi road, but in her reasoning, it would save anyone who showed their weaknesses, be it a human, a dog, or a creature. Kishot understood in this way. When she was weak, she directed all of Araragi's kindness at her, but now she has retained all her power. Araragi no longer has any interest in her. Before the battle itself, Araragi asks Kishot who the person is for her. For her, a person is food. This is what the young man expected to hear, which made him angry. They repeatedly tear off each other's limbs and heads, but then regenerate their appendages. After a few blows, Kishot jumps very high and stands in the stadium spotlight. After revealing the secret that she was once a simple person like Araragi and dramaturgy, although she no longer remembers anything from her human life, she was from a relatively noble and good bloodline, but purity and kinship no longer matter much for a vampire with an age of more than 300 years. Araragi takes off for Kishot, and then the fight continues. After a mighty blow from the woman, the guy's face detached from his skull, falling. The battle continues until Kishot grabs Araragi by the throat with one hand and pulls back his wrist with the other. After a strong kick, the guy flies away, and the hand remains hanging on one vein. And then Kishot is about to strike from above, but the young man managed to catch his hanging hand on the pipe and pull himself up. Araragi anticipates the moment when Kishot hesitates and strikes, punching her with his body. Tsubasa runs through the stadium and wants to convey information to Araragi, but Kishot stops her. Before the blow itself, which was aimed at Tsubasa, Araragi managed to cover her with his body, thereby saving her. His body split into many small pieces, but his head remained intact. She was clinging to Kishot's neck. Finally, Araragi weakens the woman by sucking her blood out of her neck. After that, she begins to lose strength rapidly. Tsubasa suddenly realizes that Kishot wants to die. She admits that she would give up the fight and explains that she must die to restore her subordinate's humanity, but she couldn't do it for her previous subordinate because she was too afraid of death. Kishot repeatedly demands that Araragi kill her, at which point he calls out to Mim, asking for help. Araragi asks him to develop a way to resolve this situation so that everyone will benefit. Still, Mim cannot offer those, but there is a way in which everyone will be unhappy. This method consists of the fact that Araragi will suck all the blood from the Kishot to the last drop, because of which it will lose its power and will exist on the verge of death. But at the same time, Araragi himself will not become completely human. They will both exist as pseudo-human and pseudo-vampire, and Kishot will live by regularly consuming Araragi blood. The guy chooses this path. The next day, he explains to Tsubasa that he is a primarily human, but has some vampire traits. Kishot now the shape of a baby and can only eat to suck Araragi's blood to maintain its life regularly.